Nia lived in a small clay house on the edge of Kisima, a quiet African village surrounded by tall trees and green fields. She was known for her kindness, her laughter, and her colorful dresses that brightened even the dullest days. Every morning she washed her clothes and hung them on the line behind her house. The sun would shine on the bright fabrics, and the air would carry the smell of fresh soap. It was a simple life, peaceful and full of routine, until something strange began to happen. It started with one missing headscarf. Nia didn't think much of it. Maybe it had fallen or the wind had carried it away. But then a few days later one of her skirts disappeared. Then a blouse. Then her favorite blue dress. At first she tried to laugh it off. Maybe the clothes just don't like staying with me, she joked to herself. But deep down she was uneasy. Someone was taking her things and she couldn't understand why. One warm evening as the sun began to set behind the acacia trees, Nia stood beside the washing line, staring at the empty space where her wrapper used to be. It was brand new, one she had bought with her savings after weeks of hard work selling fruits in the market. She folded her arms and sighed. "This can't be the wind anymore," she said softly. Her friend Asha, who lived nearby, came over when she saw Nia looking worried. Asha was tall, cheerful, and always full of ideas. "Nia, you look like you've seen a ghost," she teased, sitting down on the wooden stool beside her friend. Nia shook her head. "Not a ghost, Asha. A thief. My clothes keep disappearing. One after another. I thought it was a joke, but today my new wrapper is gone." Asha frowned. "A thief? From here in Kisima? That's strange. We all know each other. Who would steal clothes?" "I don't know," Nia said, rubbing her hands together. "But I'm tired of losing my things. I work hard for them." The two friends sat in silence for a while, listening to the distant sound of goats and children playing. Then Asha leaned forward, her eyes bright with an idea. "We'll catch whoever it is. I'll help you. We'll watch your yard at night and see who comes near." Nia smiled, a little comforted by her friend's determination. "You'd really do that?" "Of course," Asha said. "Nobody steals from my friend and gets away with it." That night they made their plan. Nia decided she would wash and hang out her clothes the next morning as usual, pretending nothing was wrong. Asha would come by in the evening, and they would hide behind the banana trees that stood near the washing line. From there they could see anyone who tried to sneak into the yard. The next day went by slowly. Nia washed her clothes carefully, her favorite red dress, a yellow blouse and another wrapper. As she hung them up she looked around. Everything seemed quiet. The air was warm and still. She felt uneasy as if someone might be watching. When evening came, Asha arrived with 2 cups of hot tea and a small lantern. "We'll sit here quietly," she whispered, placing the lantern behind the tree. "If the thief comes we'll see." The two friends waited. Crickets chirped, the wind rustled the leaves and the moon rose slowly over the village. Hours passed. Nia began to grow tired. "Maybe no one will come tonight," she murmured. "Patience," Asha whispered. "Thieves like the dark." Just as they were about to give up, a faint sound came from near the washing line. The two women froze. The sound came again, soft footsteps on dry grass. Someone was there. Asha leaned forward, squinting through the shadows. She could see a figure moving slowly, bending near the clothesline. The person reached out and touched one of Nia's dresses. Nia's heart beat fast. "Who is it?" she whispered. Asha couldn't tell. The person was small and quick, wearing an old hat and a long shirt. They moved carefully as if they knew the place well. Within seconds they had taken the red dress from the line and turned to leave. "Now," Asha whispered. Both women jumped out from behind the trees, shouting, "Stop! Thief!" The figure dropped the dress and ran, darting through the shadows behind the houses. Nia and Asha tried to follow, but the thief was fast and disappeared into the night. The red dress lay on the ground, crumpled and dusty. Nia picked it up slowly. "I can't believe it," she said, her voice shaking. "Someone really came to steal it." Asha put her hand on her shoulder. "We didn't catch them tonight, but we will. They must live nearby. Nobody runs that fast unless they know these paths." Nia nodded, staring at the dark trees beyond her fence. "If only I knew who it was," she whispered. "If only I knew why." That night she couldn't sleep. The sound of those footsteps stayed in her mind. Was it someone she knew? A neighbor? A child? The thought of it troubled her deeply. She had always trusted her village. Everyone helped one another. But now that trust was broken. The next morning, Nia walked to the market with Asha, telling a few close friends about what had happened. Some were shocked, others curious. "A thief in Kisima?" one woman said. "That's strange. Maybe it's someone in need. Nia sighed. If they needed help they could just ask. I would give them something. Asha nodded. Yes, but not everyone has your heart, Nia. Some people hide their troubles. As they walked home, Nia made up her mind. She wouldn't stop until she discovered the truth. Whoever was stealing her clothes had a reason, and she needed to find out what it was. The mystery had begun, and she could feel that it was more than just stolen fabric. Something about the thief's movements, the quietness, the way they disappeared, it all felt strange. There was a story behind it, one she was determined to uncover. That night, as she folded her remaining clothes, she whispered softly to herself, "If only I knew who steals my clothes, maybe I would understand everything." Outside, the wind rustled again, and in the distance, a pair of quiet eyes watched her house from the shadows. The thief wasn't done yet. Days passed in Kisima, and Nia's missing clothes became the talk of the village. People whispered about it everywhere, at the market, near the well, and even at the church. Some said it was a jealous neighbor trying to shame her. Others, with wide eyes and hushed voices, spoke of the forest spirits who danced at night wearing stolen clothes from the living. The older women claimed they had heard such things before. Those spirits love beauty, one said, pointing to Nia's bright dresses. Maybe they come to borrow her clothes for their midnight dance. Nia laughed at the idea, though part of her still felt uneasy. She didn't believe in forest spirits stealing dresses, but the mystery kept her awake at night. She had lived in Kisima all her life and never imagined something like this could happen in such a peaceful place. Still, she decided to be more careful. Every morning, she counted her clothes, folded them neatly, and made sure nothing was left outside after sunset. But despite her caution, more things disappeared. It was as if the thief was watching her every move. One afternoon, Asha came by to check on her. "Nia, you look tired," she said, setting down a small basket of fruit. "I barely sleep," Nia admitted. "I keep hearing noises at night. Footsteps near the washing line. But when I look, no one's there." Asha crossed her arms. Maybe it's time to catch this thief properly. You saw the shadow last time, didn't you?" "Yes," Nia said softly. "But it was so fast. I only saw the outline. Small like a child but quick as a cat." Asha raised an eyebrow. "A child? Could it be one of the village boys?" Nia shook her head. "Maybe. Or maybe someone pretending to be small to confuse me. I just don't know." That evening, the two friends agreed to watch again. The sun dipped behind the tall trees and the air cooled. Nia hung out a few old dresses, pretending to go about her normal chores. Then, after dark, she quietly moved behind her hut. She didn't bring a lantern this time, she wanted to stay hidden. The moon was bright enough to see faint outlines of the washing line. The night was silent, except for the distant croak of frogs and the occasional bark of a dog. Nia crouched low behind a wooden fence, her heart beating fast. Every rustle made her muscles tighten. Minutes turned to hours. The crickets chirped. The wind whispered through the grass. Still no one came. Then, just as she began to relax, she saw movement, a small shadow gliding across the yard. It came from the side of the banana trees. Nia held her breath. The figure moved closer, slow and cautious. Its head turned left and right, checking the surroundings. It was not a spirit. It was clearly a person. The figure's hand reached toward the washing line, fingers brushing against one of her dresses. Nia leaned forward, trying to see more. The person was wearing something dark and their feet were bare. The way they moved, quiet and nervous, told her they were afraid of being caught. Suddenly, one of the bamboo poles creaked slightly under the thief's weight. The sound made the figure freeze. Then, as if struck by fear, the person grabbed the nearest piece of cloth and dashed into the shadows. "Hey!" Nia cried, jumping to her feet. She tried to run after them, but her legs trembled from sitting too long. By the time she reached the corner of the yard, the figure had disappeared into the darkness beyond the path. She stood there, breathing hard, her eyes scanning the night. The village was quiet again. Only the faint rustle of leaves remained. The thief was gone. Asha came running moments later, holding a small oil lamp. "Nia, I heard you shout. What happened?" Nia pointed toward the path. "I saw them again. I saw the thief. It wasn't a spirit, it was a person. Small, quick, and hiding in the shadows. I couldn't see their face, but I'm sure it was real." Asha looked toward the trees, the flickering lamplight dancing on her worried face. "Then we're closer to finding out who it is," she said. "We just need to be smarter next time." Nia nodded slowly. "I won't stop until I know the truth. Whoever it is, they've been watching me. They know when I hang my clothes and when I sleep. That means they live close by." Asha frowned. That's what worries me. If it's someone from the village, why would they steal your clothes? We all know you'd give anything if asked. Nia sighed, hugging her arms. Maybe shame keeps them from asking. Or maybe there's something deeper. The next morning, word of the new sighting spread quickly. The villagers gathered around Nia's house, offering advice and their own strange theories. Some said it must be a poor widow trying to clothe her children. Others insisted it was a cursed spirit pretending to be human. One man even claimed, "I saw a figure near the river last night wearing a dress that looked just like Nia's blue one." The people gasped, though no one could confirm it. Nia tried to stay calm. She didn't want anger or fear to cloud her judgment. She wanted to understand. That evening she visited the village elder, Baba Jomo, to seek advice. The old man sat beneath a mango tree, his gray beard long and his eyes sharp with wisdom. "Baba Jomo," Nia began, "someone has been stealing my clothes. I've seen them with my own eyes. People say it might be spirits, but I know it's not. What should I do?" The elder nodded slowly. "You have seen much, my daughter, but the heart of a thief often hides pain. Watch with both your eyes and your heart. Sometimes those who steal are not greedy, they are hurting." His words stayed with her all night. Maybe the thief wasn't just a troublemaker. Maybe they needed help. That night, Nia sat by her window, looking out at the washing line bathed in moonlight. The dresses swayed gently in the wind. Somewhere beyond the trees, the shadow that haunted her dreams was waiting, silent, careful, and real. She whispered to herself, "You can run, but one day I will find you. And when I do, I will know why." As the wind carried her words into the dark, a faint figure watched from afar, small, trembling, and unsure, clutching a piece of fabric close to their chest. Early the next morning, Nia rose before the sun. The air was cool and a light mist drifted above the grass. She stepped outside, determined to follow the mystery that had been haunting her for weeks. Her eyes caught something new near the washing line, small footprints, faint but clear in the soft soil. They looked like a child's steps, bare and delicate. Nia's heart began to race. So, it was a person, she whispered to herself. She crouched and touched the marks, noticing how they moved away from her yard toward the thick forest behind the village. She quickly tied a shawl around her waist, picked up a walking stick for balance, and began to follow the trail. The path was quiet except for the sound of birds singing and leaves rustling under her feet. Sunlight broke through the trees in golden beams, lighting her way. Every few steps, Nia found another clue, a piece of thread here, a small scrap of fabric there. It was as if the forest itself was guiding her, showing her the way to the truth. When she reached the edge of the woods, the footprints grew clearer. Some were pressed deep into the mud, as though the little feet had stumbled or run fast. Then, on a low branch, she saw something that made her stop, a strip of her favorite wrapper hanging from a thorn. She reached out and gently pulled it free, recognizing the bright blue pattern at once. Her chest tightened. Whoever it is must be close, she thought. The forest grew thicker as she went deeper. The ground was damp and the smell of wet earth filled the air. Nia walked carefully, pushing aside ferns and vines. Suddenly, through the trees, she noticed something unusual, a small hut made of sticks, banana leaves, and dried grass. It looked fragile but carefully built, hidden well between two tall trees. Smoke rose faintly from a small fire pit outside. Nia stopped behind a bush, watching quietly. The place looked too small for an adult. Then she heard a soft sound, humming, gentle and low. It was the sound of a child. Slowly she stepped closer. Her heart pounded as she peeked through the doorway made of woven branches. Inside, the sight took her breath away. There, neatly stacked on a small mat, were her missing clothes. Every single one, the red wrapper, the yellow dress, her old headscarves, all carefully folded and clean. Near them sat a small girl, thin and barefoot, her big brown eyes filled with fear. The little girl froze when she saw Nia standing there. Her hands trembled as she tried to hide behind the pile of clothes. Nia's voice softened immediately. "It's okay, my child. Don't be afraid." The girl didn't move. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. She looked like she hadn't eaten properly for days. Her hair was rough and her dress was torn and faded. Nia slowly stepped inside, her movements gentle. "Are you the one who took my clothes?" she asked softly. The girl nodded hesitantly, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't mean to steal. I just wanted something clean to wear. I live here, all alone." Nia's heart broke at the sound of those words. She knelt beside the girl and noticed a small clay pot with water, some old fruits, and a thin blanket made from her missing scarf. It was clear that the girl had been surviving by herself. "What's your name?" Nia asked kindly. "Zuba," the girl replied, wiping her tears. "My mother. She went to the city long ago and never came back. I didn't know what to do. I had no clothes and I was cold at night. I saw your house and I thought maybe you wouldn't notice." Nia's eyes filled with tears. She gently placed a hand on Zuba's shoulder. "Oh, my dear, you could have come to me. You didn't need to hide." Zuba looked down. "I was scared. People chase me away when they see me. They say I don't belong." Nia felt a deep ache in her heart. She thought about all the rumors, all the nights she had stayed awake, angry at a thief who had only been a lonely child. "Zuba," she said softly, "you are not a thief anymore. You are safe now. Come home with me. You can eat, rest, and have clothes of your own. You don't have to live like this." The little girl blinked, unsure if she had heard right. You would let me stay with you?" Nia smiled gently. "Yes, child. No one should live alone in the forest. You belong with people who care." Zuba hesitated, then slowly reached out her small hand. Nia took it and helped her to her feet. Together they stepped out of the small hut. Zuba turned to look back at her little home of sticks and leaves, the only place she had known for so long. She whispered goodbye to it. As they walked back through the forest, the morning light grew brighter. Birds sang overhead, and the air smelled fresh and new. Nia felt peace in her heart for the first time in weeks. The mystery was over, but something more precious had been found, a lost soul who needed love. When they reached the edge of the village, some neighbors stared in surprise. A few whispered, wondering who the little girl was. But Nia only smiled and said, "This is Zuba. She's coming home with me." Asha met her halfway and gasped. "You found the thief?" "Yes," Nia said, looking down at the child with kindness. "And she's not a thief anymore. She's just a little girl who needed help." Asha's face softened. "Then the spirits of Kisima have truly guided you." That evening, Nia gave Zuba a warm bath, a clean dress, and a bowl of food. The little girl ate slowly at first, still shy, but soon smiled shyly at her. For the first time in a long while she felt safe. As Nia watched her, she whispered to herself, "Sometimes, we chase shadows and forget that behind them are hearts that only need love." Outside, the moon rose high above the village, and the wind blew softly across the washing line. But this time Nia didn't worry. Her clothes were safe, and so was the little girl who had once taken them. Zuba's tears began to fall like rain as she stood before Nia, her small hands shaking and her lips trembling. The forest around them was quiet except for the faint chirping of birds and the whisper of wind through the trees. Nia looked at her gently, waiting. The girl took a deep breath, her voice small and weak. "I'm sorry," Zuba whispered. "I didn't mean to steal from you. I only wanted to look like the other children." Nia's heart softened even more. "Tell me, my child," she said softly, "why did you take them? Why didn't you just ask?" Zuba wiped her face with the back of her hand and looked down at the dirt floor. "I live with my mother on the far side of the village," she said, her voice cracking. "We are very poor. My mother works in people's farms all day, but sometimes we don't even have enough to eat. She can't buy new clothes for me. The ones I had were torn and old. The other children at school laughed at me. They said I looked like a beggar." Her shoulders shook as she tried to hold back more tears. "I didn't want to be different. I just wanted to feel normal, even for a little while." Nia felt a lump in her throat. She thought of her own childhood, the days when she, too, had worn hand-me-downs from her cousins and wished for something new. The memory made her eyes sting. Zuba continued, her words coming slowly between sobs. "The first time I took something I felt so bad. I couldn't sleep that night. But when I wore your old dress the children stopped laughing. I felt happy just for one day. After that I didn't know how to stop. I told myself I would return them someday." Nia knelt down so that their eyes were level. She placed a gentle hand on Zuba's shoulder. The girl flinched slightly, afraid she was about to be scolded, but instead, Nia's touch was warm and kind. "My dear Zuba," Nia said softly, "I understand. You did something wrong, yes, but your heart was not wicked. You only wanted to feel proud of yourself. You must promise me something. Next time you must not take what is not yours. You only have to ask. Do you understand?" Zuba nodded quickly, her tears still glistening on her cheeks. "I promise," she whispered. "I'll never take again." "Good," Nia said, giving her a small smile. "Now come. Let's go home." They began to gather the clothes from the little hut, folding them carefully. Nia noticed how neatly Zuba had kept everything, each piece clean and placed with care. It touched her heart that even in stealing, the child had tried to be gentle. As they walked back toward the village, the morning sun shone brighter through the trees. Birds flew from branch to branch, and the sound of water flowing from the stream nearby filled the air. Zuba carried a small bundle of clothes in her hands, while Nia carried the rest on her head. On the way, Nia spoke softly. "Zuba, what does your mother say about school?" Zuba hesitated before replying. "She wants me to go, but sometimes she says there's no point if we can't even afford books or food. She tries her best, but life is hard." Nia nodded, understanding the pain behind those words. "You are lucky to have a mother who still hopes for you. You must listen to her. And from today you will not walk with shame again. We will find a way to help you." Zuba looked up at her, surprised. "You would help me?" Nia smiled warmly. "Of course, child. No one should feel alone or unwanted. The world is kinder when we help one another." When they reached the edge of the village, people began to notice them. Some women fetching water paused and stared. One of them, an older woman with a basket of cassava, asked, "Nia, is that the little thief who's been taking your clothes?" Nia stopped and looked at Zuba, whose eyes filled with fear again. Then she turned to the women and said calmly, "She is not a thief. She is a child who needed help. The story is over now." The women exchanged glances, then nodded silently. Some smiled kindly, seeing how gently Nia spoke. They went on with their work, whispering that Nia's heart was softer than the morning breeze. When Nia and Zuba reached Nia's home, Asha was waiting by the door. Her eyes widened in surprise when she saw the child. "You found her," she said. "So it was her all along?" "Yes," Nia replied quietly. "But it's not what we thought. She wasn't stealing out of greed. She was only trying to cover her shame." Asha looked at the girl and sighed. "The world can be cruel to the poor." Nia nodded and placed the bundle of clothes on the wooden bench outside her house. She turned to Zuba and smiled gently. "Come inside. You look hungry. You can eat before you go back to your mother." Zuba's eyes brightened a little. She followed Nia into the small hut, where the smell of fresh porridge filled the air. Nia served her a bowl, and the child ate slowly, her hands shaking slightly at first. After she finished, Nia said softly, "Let's take these clothes back to your mother. She should know what happened, and that no one is angry." They walked together to the far end of the village, where small mud houses stood surrounded by cassava fields. A thin woman sat outside mending a mat. When she saw them, she stood quickly, her face filled with surprise and worry. "Zuba," she cried. "Where have you been? I was so worried." Zuba ran to her and hugged her tightly. "Mama, I'm sorry," she said. "I took clothes from this lady's house. I didn't mean to. I just wanted to look nice for school." The mother's eyes filled with tears. She turned to Nia. "I'm so sorry. Please forgive her. She didn't mean harm. We've been struggling for so long." Nia shook her head gently. "There's nothing to forgive. I understand. You have a good daughter and she has a good heart. She only needed guidance." The woman's lips trembled. "Thank you for being kind. Most people would have beaten her." Nia smiled softly. Beating would not have solved anything. Kindness teaches better than anger. Together they carried the clothes inside, neatly folded them, and spoke for a while. Nia promised to bring some extra fabric the next week so they could sew new dresses for Zuba. The woman thanked her over and over, her eyes shining with gratitude. As the sun began to set, Nia walked home feeling peaceful. She had lost her clothes, but she had found something far greater, a chance to help, to forgive, and to show compassion. The village of Kisima would soon whisper not about a thief, but about the woman who turned anger into love. That night, as Nia hung her laundry again under the bright moonlight, she smiled to herself. She was no longer afraid of missing clothes. Somewhere in the village, a child slept warmly, with a heart full of hope instead of fear. When Nia told the villagers what had truly happened, everyone listened in silence. The morning sun glowed softly over Kisima, and a gentle breeze passed through the tall palm trees. People gathered under the big baobab tree near the center of the village. Men, women, and children, all curious about the story of the missing clothes. Nia stood before them, calm and kind as always. Zuba sat beside her, clutching her mother's hand, her small face filled with fear and shame. Some villagers whispered quietly, expecting Nia to scold or demand punishment. But Nia raised her hand, her eyes full of warmth, and said softly, "Zuba did take my clothes, but she is not a thief. She is only a little girl who wanted to feel like everyone else. Her family has been struggling and she made a mistake, but one born from pain, not from evil." The crowd murmured again, some surprised, others moved. Asha stepped forward and nodded. It's true, she said. We all saw how she treated the girl. Instead of shouting or calling the chief, Nia forgave her. That is something we should all learn from. The old chief, who had been sitting quietly on a stool, leaned forward and stroked his gray beard. Nia speaks with a good heart, he said slowly. A child who steals out of hunger or shame is not a criminal, she is a victim of need. We must help, not hurt. Zuba's mother began to cry softly. Thank you, she said, her voice trembling. You have saved my daughter's heart today. I didn't know how to fix what she had done. Then, something beautiful began to happen. One of the women from the crowd, Mama Kasai, stood up and said, I have some extra fabric at home. I can give it to Zuba and her mother. They can sew new clothes. Another man, Boma the carpenter, added, I'll bring some food from my storehouse. No family in Kisima should go hungry. Soon others joined in. Some promised rice, some offered cassava, and some said they would bring old clothes for the family. Even the children began whispering among themselves, saying they would no longer laugh at anyone who dressed differently. Zuba looked up at Nia with wide, grateful eyes. She could not believe that the same people who might have hated her were now helping her. Her mother hugged her tightly, whispering, You see, my child? Kindness can wash away even the worst mistakes. Over the next few days, the whole village worked together. Women came with baskets full of food. Men helped repair the roof of Zuba's small hut, which leaked when it rained. Children brought old schoolbooks and pencils for Zuba so she could study without worry. Nia visited often, bringing her sewing kit. She sat with Zuba and her mother under the shade of a mango tree, teaching them how to patch and stitch. The sound of laughter filled the air as they worked together. The once shy little girl began to smile again, her fears slowly melting away. One afternoon, Nia gave Zuba one of her favorite old dresses, a soft yellow one with small white flowers. It was the same dress Zuba had once secretly taken and worn. When Nia handed it to her, Zuba's eyes filled with tears again, but this time they were tears of happiness. For me? She asked quietly. Yes, Nia said with a smile. For you. This time you don't have to take it. It's a gift. Zuba hugged her tightly. Thank you, Nia. I'll take care of it forever. From that day, Zuba and Nia became very close. They spent many afternoons together, cooking, washing, or just sitting by the river talking about dreams. Zuba began calling Nia Sister Nia, and the name stayed with her for years. The people of Kisima began to notice how things changed. No one locked their washing lines anymore. No one whispered about thieves or missing clothes. Instead, they talked about helping each other, about forgiveness, and about the strange way kindness could fix what anger could not. The chief often used Nia's story when teaching the younger ones. Remember, he would say, Nia's clothes went missing but she found something greater, the meaning of love and forgiveness. Kindness makes a heart rich. As time passed, Zuba grew into a confident, happy young girl. She studied hard and became one of the best students in her school. Her clothes were now clean, neat, and proudly made from the fabric the villagers had given. Each time she passed by Nia's house, she stopped to greet her, and Nia always smiled in return. One bright morning, as the sun rose over Kisima, Nia hung her laundry on the line again. The dresses swayed gently in the wind. She stood for a moment, remembering the days when she used to worry about stolen clothes. Now those memories made her smile. Life had changed not because she had punished someone but because she had chosen to forgive. Later that day, as she walked through the market, she saw Zuba helping her mother sell fruits. The little girl looked cheerful, her hair neatly tied, wearing that same yellow dress that once caused so much trouble. When their eyes met, Zuba waved happily and ran to hug her. Sister Nia, she said, her voice full of joy. Mama says you're coming for supper tonight. Nia laughed softly. Of course I will. I wouldn't miss it. The market women smiled as they watched them together. One of them whispered, Do you see them? That's what kindness looks like. The story of Nia and Zuba spread beyond Kisima. People from nearby villages spoke about the woman who forgave a thief and turned her into a friend. Parents told the story to their children before bed, teaching them that forgiveness could build bridges where anger built walls. Years later, when Nia looked back, she realized how that small act of understanding had changed her village forever. People became more open, more willing to share, more careful with their words. Even when disagreements happened, they remembered the day the villagers stood together under the baobab tree and chose kindness over judgment. Sometimes, Nia would still find herself smiling as she watched Zuba running through the fields, her laughter echoing across the village. The girl she once caught stealing now carried baskets for the elders, helped younger children with their lessons, and greeted everyone with warmth. There was peace in Kisima, a peace born not from rules or fear but from compassion. And every time Nia saw Zuba wearing one of her old dresses, she felt her heart swell with pride. The dress that had once caused anger now symbolized friendship, love and change. In the end, Nia realized something important. Sometimes the smallest acts of kindness could plant seeds that grew into forests of goodness. And as the evening sun painted the sky golden over Kisima, she whispered softly to herself, "If only everyone knew, forgiveness is stronger than anger." Then she smiled, watching Zuba wave at her from across the field, her yellow dress glowing in the sunlight, bright and free just like her heart.